Welcome back once again for another SnowRunner truck review. Today we're going to take a look at the fourth Azov truck in the line, which is quite different in comparison to the others. As you can see, this truck is not your normal 6x6. So before we get started, I ask that you please help support the channel by liking the video and subscribing to the channel as well. Alright, so without further ado, let's jump into it and check it out. Produced with 6x6 and 8x8 configuration, the KAMAZ 6345 Arctic is a huge vehicle that was built to be effective in severe conditions, hence its name, the Arctic. The KAMAZ company collaborated with Moscow Bowman Technical Institute to manufacture this beast. The KAMAZ comes with a standard 12-liter diesel engine producing 400 horsepower combined with a 16-speed mechanical gearbox. Being that the sole purpose of this vehicle is for extremely cold conditions, the cab behind the driver is basically a small apartment, and this has most things needed for everyday living, including a microwave, a stove, a sink, a TV, climate control systems, and a working bathroom. In SnowRunner, this truck is the Azov 4220 Antarctic. To briefly describe this truck before our standard pros and cons, it can be a savior or a liability to players. The sheer size of this truck makes it tackle deep conditions with ease. So before I go any further, let's check out the base stats. The Azov 4220 Antarctic is classified as a heavy truck. It weighs 29.8 tons. In its stock configuration, it boasts a power to weight of B+, durability of A+, fuel consumption B-, fuel capacity is 340 liters or 90 gallons. It comes with a stock suspension. Its tires also come stock with a 71-inch mud tire. Its all-wheel drive is always on, and its diff lock is switchable. Alright, let's dive into the pros and cons of the Azov 4220 Antarctic. As always, bad news first, so opening up the downsides list at the number 1 spot, weak articulated steering. As you can see, this is the only Azov that is a 6x6, and also its steering is quite different as well. To start the criticism beatdown off right, we have to start out with steering. Currently, 3 vehicles have this type of steering in the game, yet the Azov is the only one that seems underpowered when given a command for a full lock turn. This weak steering also shows itself when hitting rough terrain. This will cause the turn input to be interrupted, prompting the driver to take corrective action. However, the turning circles are sharper than both the Cat 745C and the Aeromatsu Forester. Also, the steering will respond under power when the vehicle is moving, but will be less responsive at a full stop. Downside number 2. No chained tires. For its name being the Antarctic, one would infer that a chain tire option would be in the customization tab when panning through this vehicle's features, but no dice here. To wrap this one up, it would be nice to have chains on the second largest tires in the game. As explained in previous videos, this downside can have a workaround by skirting the edges of icy roads where there is potential traction. Downside number 3. Front overhang. As we will learn, the vehicle does sit pretty darn high, and it's not necessarily rapid enough to slam into terrain like other vehicles. Yet we cannot go without mentioning 1/3 of the vehicle's cab overhanging its foremost axle. This can dig into driving surfaces at times, but I wouldn't say that it's too big of a deal due to the upsloping nature of its nose. Downside number 4. Stability and maneuverability. To briskly cover this downside, it's one of the tallest vehicles in the game, and its stance seems rather narrow for its size. If you've driven it, you already know how hard it can be to maneuver it and keep it on its wheels in those bumpy conditions. However, to combat this, the articulated steering can be used to save your balance at times. I'm not going to go into detail about this one, but just be cognizant of the vehicle's unstable nature. Downside number 5. It needs upgrades and relies on differential locking. In the video, you probably see me using high gear and low plus with differential locking instead of auto. Well, during my testing, I found that the Azov performs better under differential locking. Without differential locking engaged, it seems that all that power is lost to spinning axles, and then there's other axles that are not moving much at all. So to mitigate this, high gear increases the RPMs, which can be heard upon switching to. And this will drive more power to all the axles, allowing for faster movement. Lastly, this truck needs the highest engine upgrade to perform, period. It's one of the heavier trucks in the game, and it's quite dependent on that largest engine, and also differential locking. Downside number 6, utility. In recent updates, the Azov was given a few more add-ons like the ramp towing platform, the long log add-on, and the logging crane. Still, I wouldn't trust it to do many of those tasks unless they were on shallow elevations. In short, the Azov isn't very versatile, and in truth there are just better options for those jobs due to those previous downsides. Downside number 7, it's situational. To piggyback on our number 6 downside, this truck really is for situational uses. For example, it's good in super deep conditions, yet it's not suited very well for uneven, bumpy terrain. Some uses are escorting trucks through super snow, super mud, or even through broken ice, which it traverses pretty darn well. But in my humble opinion, it's specialized for those flat, deep conditions. And finally, coming in at downside number 8, driver level requirement. To wrap up the downsides list, we just could not leave out that it's unlocked at driver level 26. While this is indeed a downside, levels in the game come rather easy since the additions of contracts like logging. Alright, enough of the bad news. Here are the pros for the Azov 4220 Antarctic. Breaking into the upsides list at the number 1 spot, power, all-wheel drive, and differential locking. It's pretty clear that one of our highlights of this truck is power, due to having the largest engine in the game. Teaming up that most powerful engine with the always-on all-wheel drive and switchable diff lock, as well as our following upsides, yeah, you'll see why the Azov walks through terrain that other vehicles cannot. Upside number 2, ground clearance. Despite not having a raised suspension, the Azov's clearance is quite good, which helps to keep the truck's frame out of the elements. I've explained the importance of this in prior videos, but overall, less frame contact will produce better performance. Upside number 3, tires. There is only one truck that has larger tires than these 71-inch muds, which is the Cat 770G. Having one of the larger tires in the game merits our number 2 upside. To wrap this one up, the equation is simple. A combination of all of our upsides so far with the addition of our next on the list makes the 4220 very impressive in deep spots. Upside number 4, heavyweight. For how much I've elaborated and praised this type of upside, I don't need to go into detail, but I will say this. It's the second heaviest vehicle in SnowRunner, and by that knowledge we understand that it does have the upper hand in most cases when it comes to gripping driving surfaces. Upside number 5, it crushes super conditions. Very few vehicles in the game of SnowRunner can just walk through Saber's death traps like super mud, super snow, and those shattered ice lakes. The Antarctic is one of those vehicles. In my Cat 745C video, I mentioned its performance in deep areas. Well, the Antarctic can do similar things. I think the video speaks for itself on this one, so I'll spare you the long-winded lecture. And finally, coming in at upside number 6, it's an escort vehicle. I don't feel the Azov has many uses, but it is a contingency plan waiting to be called on. In areas like Kola Peninsula and Amur, there are plenty of large tundra-like conditions with that famous super snow in which this vehicle thrives. Rather than struggling with your everyday workhorse truck, the Azov can be used to ferry or escort vehicles through those conditions. This was especially effective on maps like Urska River and Cosmodrome, which are relatively flat in some parts. Although the vehicle is not versatile, it is pleasing to use this truck with success in those Sabre death traps. Okay, so moving on to my personal ratings for this truck. For power, an easy 5 because it boasts the largest engine in the game. For terrain navigation, a rating of 4. This is a very generous rating, but this was merited because not many vehicles in the game currently can walk through super snow and super mud. This vehicle is not very easy to drive with its articulation and all those downsides we listed. For aesthetics, oddly enough, I think it looks pretty good. Stability is not anything to write home about, and I do not recommend traversing fast, changing elevations. A large fuel tank as well as pretty decent fuel consumption even under those heavy loads allows the Azov to leisurely walk through those tough conditions without worry of running out of fuel. This vehicle is a very focused, specialized truck despite being given more add-ons. Extremely heavy weight, great power, always on all-wheel drive and switchable diff lock, accompanied with the 71-inch mud tires. Yeah, it's safe to say this truck probably has the best grip in the game. So in conclusion, the Azov 4220 Antarctic is built for a specialized purpose, which you have seen in the video. Drivers who have used this vehicle in all types of elevations can attest to the difficult task of keeping it on its wheels, especially with loads. I think it's great that Sabre decided to give it more vehicle add-ons and such, but truthfully, there are way better options to fulfill those roles. However, in deep spots that few vehicles can traverse, the Azov makes it look pretty easy. I've used this vehicle in Amur and the Kola Peninsula to escort vehicles to lighter conditions. It's a great truck to pull you through those tough times, yet there are a few factors that just keep it from reappearing in driver lineups, which are the lack of practical use over other vehicles and bumpy terrain. Now, we could argue that its price point, driver level requirement, and the overall dependency on upgrades are factors, but by the time you need this truck, pretty much all of those requirements have been satisfied. So in closing, the Azov 4220 Antarctic without a doubt is elite when it comes to tackling super conditions that stick vehicles to the driving surfaces like glue. It's a wonderful truck to call on to keep the mission on track when you're in a pinch. It does have limitations as we have mentioned throughout the video, but overall I think having one around for hard times will be beneficial. Try it out and let me know what you think. I hope this review gave you a fresh, new perspective of the Azov 4220 Antarctic. Please smash that like button. Definitely share this video with someone who is struggling with the game, and subscribe to the channel and hit that bell so you don't miss any future content. Hope you all have a wonderful day, God bless, and stay upright.